Perhaps if we work together, Rudy.
To do what?
You know, double the will, double the strength. A partnership.
You mean like get more comic books?
I'm serious. I can help you, but you have to help me too.
What are you talking about? Like world domination, ruling the planet, becoming an intergalactic super being?
Come on. This could be your last chance for freedom and power.
No, I'm good. I'll probably just stay here. Read comics. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again. And if you're new here, I'm so glad to see you too, because this is the show for you. If you're a fan of Superman, the animated series, or even just DC animated world at all, or Superman, then you found the right place, because here we're reviewing each and every episode of Superman, the animated series, episode by episode, breaking them down, looking at them from the lens of being an adult now versus a show that we grew up on when we were kids in the 90s. And today, we're talking about the last episode of Season 1, Two's a Crowd, which originally aired on February 15th, 1997.
But right now, he's our only hope.
It's hard to believe that we've already made it to the end of the first season, but I did double up some episodes. Like the first 3 episodes was a 3-parter, so I did that all as the first Last Son of Krypton, and The Main Man was also a 2-parter, so I did those in one episode. So really this is the 13th episode, but still, it was a short first season, opposed to Batman that was like 1,500 episodes in the first season and then 3 in the subsequent seasons. But Parasite is back in this episode, and he's being wrangled into this storyline, and it makes for some interesting dynamics. But we'll talk all about that right after our 60-second Joker Bomb rundown of the episode. Let's go. A former employee of S.T.A.R Labs, Earl Garver, is held up in this house and has stolen some plutonium or some sort of chemical to make these bombs, and they're trying to stop the SCUs there and trying to stop them, and not the SCU, and Superman comes in to help save the day and gets him out of there. Unfortunately, he is unconscious, and they're talking with him or trying to talk to him, and they can't get the information where the bomb is, but it's going to go off in 4 hours. But there's one hope, that if they can get Parasite to touch him and fuse their brains together, then maybe they get the information. Big risk. Superman warns them, but they do it anyway. And Garver and Parasite have this kind of dueling brains thing going on. And he says, hey, if we work together, we might be able to own this city. And so he tricks them into doing that, takes control of Parasite's body, and he sends Superman and Maggie off on this mission to go underwater and be able to find the bomb. It's a wild chase. They don't find it. They come back. There's only moments to go. They do finally find Parasite, and there's another showdown between Superman and Parasite. So close. There's a final showdown, and there's kind of the internal struggle inside of Parasite's brain, and the struggle between Batman physically and trying to stop him without getting touched and getting his power sucked up. Finally, Superman comes victorious and flies the ambulance with Garver back to prison. Oh, and Parasite gets his cable TV.
So the real question is, where's my money?
I don't play those games.
So Parasite is back in this episode, and it's kind of a fun interpretation of the character. So when we last left off, Parasite was in prison, and he touched the cockroach to kind of gain some power. And this episode really made me appreciate Parasite as a villain a whole lot more, because there's an interesting dynamic that's created here. And they touched on it in his first episode, Feeding Time, but certainly expound on it more in this, that Rudy Jones was just a common everyday janitor at S.T.A.R Labs and ends up getting these superpowers. But he still has the mentality of just a simple janitor. And so he's not looking for world domination or defeating Superman or anything like that. And when they actually come to him to ask for his help, he agrees to do that on one condition.
Something to help the time go faster in this dump. And not a bunch of boring books either. I want cable. And the premium channels.
That's a type of character you don't get to see. That the obvious answer would be, I'll help you, but you got to give me my freedom, or I want to own Paris, or I want to, you know, something big and grandiose. And I think that they set up the joke as though they're prepared to hear something big or something extravagant. And he just says, I want cable TV and the premium channels, which I think is just, again, it's just a great type of villain that here he has. I mean, we talked about it in Feeding Time, but here's a really formidable threat, a person that has power to drain not only a person's strength, but their knowledge and their thoughts. And so he knows Superman's secret identity because he touched him. And anytime he touches Superman, he gains all their power. But his wants are simple. They're basic. They're just, I want cable TV.
No skin off my nose, but I want something in return.
I do appreciate in Superman, the animated series, that they developed Superman to have not just can do anything, completely invincible, completely the strength of lifting the world or whatever, but there's an element in this where he's trying to see through the ship and be able to see in there to find where the bomb is, and he says, I can't see through all the debris. So does he have X-ray vision? And it seems like that, you know, it's not lead-lined debris, I don't believe, but why can he not see through that?
See anything?
No, there's too much debris. We'll have to go in.
And I think more so the focus of this episode ends up being the internal struggle in Parasite between Rudy Jones and Earl Garver.
Come on, man. What are you waiting for? They got you. Cooperate and they'll treat you real good.
You'll never get away, Garver.
Ah, the best laid plans.
And I like that element, and I like the way that they did that, where we go inside the brain and we're seeing the two of them kind of going back and forth. And Rudy, who's just your everyday guy, has no interest in blowing up the world or has no grandiose plans, but ends up having to come in direct conflict or come in direct proximity to this villain who does want to do harm to the world. And so that internal struggle is where most of the story takes place.
Yeah, what if pigs could fly?
I'm serious. I can help you, but you have to help me too. Come on.
But I do appreciate also that in that battle between Superman and Parasite, that they don't take an easy way out by just having Superman put on a suit where he can't be touched. But this is the battle that I wanted to see in Feeding Time, where he's having to dodge him and try not to get touched and trying to hit him and strike him without him being able to grab a hold of him. It's a much, much more compelling fight than just, oh, now you can't touch me.
Did you really think I'd settle for money when I could have your power too?
But that brings up a point that, you know, Superman hasn't used his laser vision much in this series. He used it in fun and games to shoot down the kind of toy planes without anybody knowing that he was Superman as Clark Kent. But this would have been a perfect opportunity to kind of shoot him with the lasers, Parasite, because that's his long-range weapon. Or his cold breath. He hasn't used that much either. Just a lot of brute strength, a lot of punching.
The longer this goes on, the weaker you'll get.
Then perhaps we should call an end to the stalemate.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, at the end of the day, it ends up being a story of the internal struggle between Parasite. I like what they did with Parasite. I like how they're introducing or establishing the character of Rudy Jones inside the body. The threat is there with Superman because he can't be touched. But again, when you stack it up against some of the other episodes, it's just not as good as some of the episodes that we've been seeing. So for those reasons, I end up putting it at the number 8 spot of my favorite episodes so far. Just below Tools of the Trade, because that one is an important episode because it establishes Darkseid. Although, again, the threat isn't there and it's just Batman. It's just Superman versus Mannheim. But I do, again, have it beating out Last Son of Krypton because that is just a origin story of Superman. And that truly, that 3-part episode would have been better if they would have stopped it at the end of the 2nd episode. The 3rd episode just ends up being extra.
Now come over here and hold out your hand like a good boy.
Can you think of any other villains like Rudy Jones that just came into having some power or some abilities but doesn't have high admirations of trying to take over the world, just wants simple things like cable TV? I like that in a character. Can you think of another villain that is similar to that? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button. And if you want to see more content like this, then be sure to hit subscribe, because we have new episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday. But with this being the last episode of the first season, the next episode, I'll be doing kind of a recap of the first season and my overall thoughts of that before we jump into the first season of the new adventures of Batman. So we have lots of content on its way, so be sure to subscribe. As always, I'm Andy Knode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.